Thus, Lavanya, why don't you open the debate for us? The scheme, was it really thought through, or was it just like a freebie that was promised to the people? The private operators are claiming that this has led to severe losses and the scheme was not thought through. It has affected the industry, adversely affected the industry at large. Lavanya.
Good evening, Anusha. I belong to a family in coastal Karnataka, which is one of the biggest private bus owning family. We are the pioneers. We have a private bus owning company for the last 50 years. And I'll give you both the inputs of private and the government scheme. The government scheme was designed to empower women, and it is empowering women. There have been talks about how the private bus owners have been affected because of this. Yes, certainly there is a certain amount of impact on the private bus owners when it comes to women commuting in the buses. But competition is always the way forward. The autos in the state, especially in Bengaluru, is always a last mile reach kind of connect. And the people who travel in autos, especially in Bengaluru, are different, and the people who travel in buses are different. And if we talk about aggregators, the cab aggregators, Transportation Minister Mr. Ramlinga Reddy a couple of days ago had suggested that the government will come up with a taxi aggregator wherein no commission will be charged to the taxi drivers or the auto drivers, unlike the private taxi aggregators who take out of the earnings. So this is one of the plans, and yes, the Shakti launch scheme will not be taken back. They have other demands like housing, which will be taken into consideration. That was one of the points that was discussed today.
Lavanya, there's a larger point which I'm trying to get at. I mean, when this Shakti scheme started, and who would oppose in their right minds if women get free public transport? I mean, mobility of women is something that everybody wants in this country to increase, and with much more ease like we have had in the past compared to what we have had in the past. So in principle, I don't think anybody is opposed to the idea. It's about how it has been implemented. When the scheme started, we saw the public buses, they were completely packed. It was very difficult for everyday commuters to get into those buses, and the government said, look, we'll have to increase the number of buses because the commuters have increased. Now there are private players who are coming forward and saying you've planned it in a way that the concerns of the private players have not been taken into account. It points out to a patchy implementation of a utopian idea. That's what it looks like.
Anusha, when you are planning a welfare scheme for a state, you look at it from the government point of view. You do not look at it from a capitalist business house point of view. I was there in the meeting that happened a few days ago. I happened to overhear the meeting between the Private Bus Association presidents, which also happens to be one of my uncles. And they were of the demand that the Shakti scheme should also be given to private buses. It is, I think, unfair demand, because a welfare scheme is meant for the people, not for business houses, correct? It was one of the demand I saw from the bus owners association side. But I'm not talking about the bus owners. Here we're talking about taxi aggregators as well. So this is one thing. Lifetime tax exemption is what was called, and that is something our Transportation Minister said that will have to be thought through. And
you mentioned those points. Let me bring in BJP also. Mr. Bhaskar Rao also into the discussion. Mr. Rao, the Congress party argues that, well, look, these are intermediary issues which are coming while we are implementing these schemes. There are various demands that these private players have made before the government, and we will listen to some of these demands very intently, but there is no question of going back on the scheme per se.
The Congress party has gone into a complete fiscal tailspin and has lost control over the finances of the state. In its ambition to bribe the voters to vote for them, now they are in a very peculiar situation. Like there is a saying in Kannada, one kannage benne inandu kannage sunna, butter on one eyes and the chuna on the other eyes. So there are a huge number of private operators. When you started Shakti scheme, did you not factor that a huge number of private operators will be affected? These are tax-paying people, hard-earned tax-paying. I was a former transport commissioner, so I know their rules and difficulties very well. These people pay a lot of taxes, private bus operators, auto rickshaw owners, private taxi and cab bearers over there. It is fine. Everybody loves to have a free gift. Women have enjoyed well as regards free transportation is concerned. This entire scheme has opened a huge fiscal Pandora's box, and the government has lost complete control over its finances. Honorable Minister Ramalinga Reddy says that these demands can't be met from the private sector. In fact, these people are too weak to organize themselves. So that is the strong point of the government, that let us see how long they can protest. But nevertheless, you can't drive people into the corner and make them suffer.
Well,
Most
Mr.
is-
Rao, there are also
besides-
murmurs. There are also murmurs, and I believe some people in the government have also spoken about it, that these protests are motivated, or perhaps there is an ulterior motives as to how
Motivated by whom, madam? These are all
how
hungry
these
people.
protests have been organized.
These are all hungry people who have lost their income.
Yeah.
Why, Shakti may be a good scheme for women. Fine, excellent, welcome. But what about the plight of these people who are hardworking people, those who have borrowed money, bought transport vehicles, and they are tax-paying persons? Have you factored them while making this scheme over there? Today, they are driven into the corner after 3 months of your scheme. Private buses are running empty. So while on one side you may have done some
I'll
good
come
work
to you,
for
Lavanya.
women to travel around, fine, but what about the plight? The state government's finances are also in very bad condition. In fact, they are not been able to construct 1 kilometer of a road anywhere, not even
Well,
a
sir,
kilometer.
the government is on record to say, the state government of Karnataka is on record to say that a lot of development schemes are going to be affected because they have to work on the schemes that were promised. So I don't think, I don't think that's a... No, I'm not saying it's a great scenario to have. I believe that any government should be prudent
But what
enough
is the answer
that you
to these
can
people, madam?
have some kind of balance between development and the promises that you've made. I don't think
Fine.
development work should
But
be stalled for any
how do
kind
you-
of freebies.
Anusha,
Motivated
if I
by
may-
whom, madam? See, these people who run auto rickshaws, poor people, taxi drivers,
Yes.
private bus drivers, and they are giving a lot of taxes.
No,
I was
sir,
a transport
I take that
commissioner.
point.
I'm aware of the
That's a
taxes
fair
that
point
they
to
are
make.
giving.
Lavanya,
where will they give taxes?
it's great that this scheme, as I said in the beginning of the show, before I go to Mr. R.K. Upadhyay, a quick response from you, then I want to bring in Mr. Upadhyay as well.
Yeah,
But the key question here is that you cannot overlook one class of underprivileged people to give benefit to another ones, right? You have to balance the weighing concerns or the
good.
competing interests of both the sections of society. Lavanya,
It
please
is
go
not
ahead.
inclusive development.
Yes,
It is not
yes.
inclusive.
Lavanya, please go ahead.
Yeah, Anusha, what you're saying is perfectly right. Everything has to be balanced. Let me just give you a quick transportation history of Karnataka in the last few years. In Siddaramaiah government, we purchased new buses for KSRTC. We also hired 2,000 new drivers during that time. During the BJP governance, Sri Ramalu, who was the then transportation minister, pledged our Shanti Nagar TMC for 160 crores because they couldn't meet the financial demands of this organization. So they have pledged this organization, BMTC's 1 TMC for 160 crores. They are talking about compensation, correct? The compensation that was announced for the taxi drivers and the auto drivers.
Let Lavanya finish her argument. Let Lavanya finish her argument. Then I'll go to Mr. Upadhyay. Lavanya, 30 seconds. 30
It
seconds.
did not reach the taxi drivers or the auto drivers. It did not reach anybody. That is a fact.